everyone, welcome back. My name's Morgan, this is my channel Pisces Paperbacks, and today I'm going to be doing a book tag. So Ariel Reads is another YouTuber who's really cool. We've chatted a little bit, and she created a new beginning of the year book tag called the New Year New Books book tag. And she tagged me. There's 13 questions. And I wanted to get in on the fun, so that's what we're going to be doing today. It's kind of like the beginning of the year version of the mid-year book freakout tag, so that's what we're going to be doing, and I'm very excited. So let's just get right on into it. I will also be linking the original video in the description box and in the cards, so you should definitely check out Ariel's channel. She's great. Question number 1 is, how many books do you plan on reading this year? I plan on reading 150, or at least that is my Goodreads goal. I'm kind of thinking I'm going to read less than that. I don't know why. I just kind of have a feeling that it's not going to quite get up there. But the goal is 150. According to Goodreads, I am 2 books ahead of schedule, so fingers crossed that I kind of stay on track. But that is what I'm trying to do. It's a bit ambitious. Question number 2 is, do you have any reading challenges for the new year? And yes, I do. I have a couple year-long reading challenges that I'm trying to participate in this year, specifically the Reading Women book challenge. So I've listened, it's a podcast where 2 women talk about books and talk about reading books by women, and they every year, at least for the past few years, have come up with 24 prompts to encourage you to read more diverse books by women. And while I've listened to the podcast and I don't love the podcast, I really like the prompts. I think they're specific enough that it really forces you to just think out of the box. It's not just like read a fantasy book by a woman. It's like read a fantasy book by an Asian author, or read a nonfiction. It's read a nonfiction about social justice or mass incarceration. Stuff like that where it's more specific. And then those are just a couple examples. So that's one challenge. And then I'm also trying to do the Buzzword reading challenge, which used to be the Buzzwordathon. Oh my god, it just started snowing. But the Buzzwordathon is now this like monthly prompt where there's one word or group of words where you want to read books with like that in the title, and I'm trying to do that this year. I read one book with the word in the title for January, and then February the prompt is colors, so it's a little bit more broad, and I have a couple books that I'm planning to read for that. And then lastly, I made a list. I went through all my videos from 2020 where I made a TBR. You might have noticed I don't really make TBRs. I find it very difficult to stick to them. But I made a list of all the books I either mentioned in TBRs or tags where there was a question of book do you want to read by the end of the year, stuff like that. And I put them all on a list, and I'm trying to read half of that list. So I want to read half of the books that I mentioned wanting to read in 2020 this year, because I don't want to put them off. You know, does that make any sense? So that's kind of a personal challenge. It's not really a challenge, it's just kind of a goal. Question number 3 is, what is the first book you bought or checked out from the library? And the first book I checked out from the library this year was probably the first book I read this year, Gideon the Ninth. And then as for the first book I bought a couple ebooks. So Wolf at the Door by Charlie Adhara, and then The Princess Trap by Talia Hibbert. And then I actually just went to Target, a holy place for me, and I bought 3 books. So I got Turtles All the Way Down by John Green. My sister and I have wanted to read more books together, and she tends to read more contemporary, like YA, and I tend to read not contemporary YA that often. So this was a book that we had in common that we wanted to read together, so we're going to be reading this together. And then I also bought Spoiler Alert by Olivia Dade, which is an adult romance, kind of fan fiction-y. This isn't usually something that would interest me in terms of the premise, because I tend to really not like fandom stuff in books. It usually makes me cringe, but I think I'm gonna like this. I don't know why. And then I also got Amari and the Night Brothers, which is a middle grade fantasy that I've just heard fantastic things about from Ashley Bookish-Realm. So these are the first books that I bought this year, in person. Question number 4 is, what was the first book you read? The first book I finished in 2021 was Gideon the Ninth by Tamsin Muir. I'm not going to say if I liked it or not, because that's going to be in my wrap-up, which is going out on Thursday. But spoiler alert, I loved it. Question number 5 is, what are 3 5-star predictions that you have for this year? And I actually made a 5-star prediction video a few months ago, probably in like October or November, and I mentioned 5 books in there, and I've read 2 of them, so I have 3 of them left, so I'm just gonna mention those because I don't want to have to come up with any more. So the 3 that I mentioned in that video are Winter House by Ben Gooderson, Wayward Son by Rainbow Rowell, and Villette by Charlotte Bronte. I'm out of these 3, the only one that I'm like more confident now that I'm gonna like than I was then is Winter House. I just still feel like I'm gonna like that. These 2, I don't know why I put them on a 5-star predictions list. Like, yes, I want to read them, and I'm hopeful I'll give them 5 stars, but like, the whole point of a 5-star predictions is not books that I hope I'm gonna like, it's books that I think I'm gonna like. So these are 2 books that I thought I was gonna like, and now I'm like, I don't know. The more that I think about it, the more I'm like, I don't even know if I want to read this. Like, I want to read it, but I'm also like so scared to. I'd rather just like never read it. I don't know. Question number 6 is one book you want to read purely because of the hype from last year. And I think this is like, it was like hyped, but not like hyped. It was more just like a lot of people read it and really liked it. And that is Real Life by Brandon Taylor, which is, I believe, a contemporary adult like literary fiction about an Indigenous college student in like a Midwest city. I would like to make a correction. I just double checked, and this book is written by a Black author and is about a Black doctoral student, not an Indigenous student. So yeah, I don't really know what it is about that book, but like, I'm really interested in reading it. I actually have it on hold from the library right now, so fingers crossed I'll get to it really soon. But yeah, I think that one. Number 7 is, what's one book you meant to read last year but didn't get to? And I mean, so many. So many. I think the first one, when I look over at my unread books, the first one that like really jumps out is Scythe by Neil Shusterman, because that was on like my last 2 years of like books I want to read this year because I've had them for so long. So I think Scythe by Neil Shusterman, and I swear this is the year it's gonna happen. This is the year it's gonna happen. But that book I just keep meaning to read. I just never get to it. Question number 8 is, what's one book you've already DNF'd? And for me, that's gonna be The Silence by Don DeLillo, or Don DeLillo, I don't know. And that is a sci-fi novella about one like Super Bowl when like suddenly all forms of communication, like the internet, just completely goes down. And I got like I had 5 pages in, and I was like, I don't like the writing style, I'm just gonna put it to the side. I don't really know if that counts as a DNF because I barely even got into it. I was literally like 5 pages in, not even. So honestly, I guess I haven't DNF'd anything else so far this year. I'm thinking about DNFing The Year of the Witching by Alexis Henderson because I was reading it last year like in November, and I got like halfway through and I wasn't really vibing with it, so I like turned it off and let it go back to the library. And I have the ebook right now, and I was like, okay, I'll finish reading it on the ebook because I just wasn't really loving the audiobook. But now that I have the ebook, I'm like, do I really want to read it though? So I'm thinking about DNFing that one, but that's another one that got so much hype last year, and I feel like I should just stick it out. I don't know. Question 9 is, what genre do you want to read more of this year? And honestly, I'm really happy with my genre distribution. I would say sci-fi because I think I only read 2 sci-fi books last year, but I've like already DNF'd the 1 sci-fi book I started reading this year. But I think sci-fi, I'd like to read more like adult fantasy. When I do read fantasy, it tends to be more YA, I think, and I'm just interested in trying more adult fantasy. But again, I'm really happy with my genre distribution. Biggest genre being romance, and then like fantasy, horror, mystery. It just works out for me, I think. Number 10 is, are you unhauling any books to make room for new ones? And that I'm gonna say no. So I bought a lot of books recently, like within the last 2 months, but generally what I prefer to do is just read things through the library and then buy things that I enjoy. So I bought a lot of stuff really recently, but the rest of my shelves of like all of my read books, these are all basically books that I really like love. And I recently got rid of like 5 or 6 books that I didn't want anymore. So I feel like I have a pretty good policy when it comes to buying books. I've just like, I had gift cards and stuff and whatever. It's the new year. So generally I'm I want to keep all of these because these are all books that I like, and then my unread shelf is maybe where I'd unhaul from, but I'm happy with it right now, so no. Number 11 is to look at the last year's Goodreads winners and see if you agree or disagree with any of them, or if there's any winners you're interested in reading. So I would say that winner for best fiction was The Midnight Library. I am interested in reading that. Obviously, The Vanishing Half won historical fiction. I own that. It's one of the books that I like. It's a goal to read this year, so I definitely want to read that one. And then of the books that I read that won, I definitely agree. So like Cast was really good, and that's it. That's the only one that I won. Oh, Clap When You Land by Elizabeth Acevedo won, and I objectively think it's a great book and probably deserved to win. I didn't really love that book, so I didn't vote for that. I probably voted for Cemetery Boys in that category. But yeah, I'm pretty good with all of these. I think the only one that I really want to read is The Midnight Library. Yeah, that's probably the only one. And then I also want to read Mexican Gothic by Silvia Moreno Garcia. That's another book that I want to read because of the hype from last year too. Number 12 is if you could recommend one book for someone to put at the top of their TBR like right away, what would it be? And oh gosh, let me see. For some reason I want to say Foul is Fair or Bunny. So this one's Foul is Fair by Hannah Cape, and this is Bunny by Mona Awad. They're both really weird, and I don't actually think like everyone would love them, but I think they both are weird but campy enough that they have like that mass appeal. I don't know. So Foul is Fair is like bittersweet 16 slasher movie kind of, and then Bunny is kind of Frankenstein meets Mean Girls, and I loved them both. I gave them both 5 stars, so I would want more people to read these, but then I want them to like them, and then when they don't like them, I'm gonna be like hurt. And then number 13 is to tag someone. So I'm going to tag my friend Hannah at, I think it's Read with Hannah. I always confuse if it's Read by Hannah or Read with Hannah. But I'm going to tag her on the cards and in my description box. And then also, you should do this tag. It's really fun, and it makes you think about the year and the things that you read last year and your plans for this year. And I mean, you just get to talk about books, which is what we're all here for. So I hope you enjoyed the video, and I will see you guys next time. Bye!